Banger fans, how's it going? Dylan Gowan here. Welcome back to another installment of Overkill Reviews, BangerTV's weekly heavy metal review show. Before we dive into today's video, one of our Patreon donors, Derek, would like us to shout out a band from Perth, Australia called Chaos Divine. They are a really solid progressive metal band. They just had a brand new album that was released October 16th called Legacies. They are the kind of progressive metal band that really reminds me of Dead Letter Circus and Carnival and a little bit of 12 Foot Ninja. So if you're a fan of progressive metal with a little bit of an alternative flair within the overall songwriting, you can check them out on all streaming platforms such as Bandcamp, YouTube, Spotify. Believe me when I say that this band is absolutely killer. Really love their stuff. So after this video, be sure to check out Chaos Divine and their new album Legacies. This week, I'm going to be reviewing a band I'd say is very underrated amongst the mainstream American metal bands. Today, we are going to be talking about the brand new 13th studio album by Sevendust called Blood and Stone, out today on Rise Records. Is it fair to say that Sevendust is very underrated since they're a mainstream band? I think you can if you're talking about them amongst bands like Slipknot or Disturbed or the kind of like big American metal bands. Sevendust has been around for a very long time. In fact, that they're just over 26 years into their career and they have accomplished a lot. I mean, 3 gold albums, 3 million records sold around the world, countless headline tours and festival appearances, and even picked up a Grammy nomination in 2016. Despite the band's success, these guys have gone through a lot of hardships. I mean, they've crawled out of debt that was almost $1 million, which was insane. That's a whole crazy story. The band's been going through a ton of addictions within the band's history, and their perseverance, I should say, is one that's very commendable. Since the band's inception in 1994, they've really kept the core members throughout the whole band's career. I know Clint left for a couple of years, but then came back in 2008, so to see a band that's kept all of the original members for that long is kind of rare. The majority of metal bands, you see like the past members just becomes its own encyclopedia page. I was stoked to talk about this album considering I was a fan of their last release, All I See Is War, and it was kind of a reboot of their sound, how they got a lot more aggressive. They started adding a lot more of a heavier edge to it than before, and I just think it was just such a solid album, and tracks like Risen and Dirty and The Truth, I think were really one of their best songs on that record and throughout Sevendust's entire discography. So if you're new to Sevendust, I would say check out All I See Is War, as well as Cold Day Memory and Time Travelers and Bonfires. I think those 3 albums really represent the band's overall sound. And I know that Time Travelers and Bonfires is kind of like a very different record of Sevendust, but I still think it's just as enjoyable as Cold Day Memory. And also there is a prog connection. If you check out the band Earthside with one of their songs, Mob Mentality, which features Lejean on vocals for that track, and that one's just insane. It also features the Moscow Symphony Orchestra, which is mind-blowing, but it only goes to that extent as far as I'm aware. So how is Blood and Stone? Well, let's find out. The album starts out very strong with the track Dying to Live, how it's just got a great build into the chorus. Every part is just heavy. It's got a lot of great energy to it. The breakdown's awesome. The solo's great. And it just feels like it's a good continuation of the sound that they were building on with their last release. To follow up on that, you get Blood from a Stone, which was the first single off of this album. Really great song, really catchy. I can tell that this is, the reason why they chose it is because it's one of the more simplest songs in terms of its riffs, in terms of ideas. It's very easy to kind of get into. The one thing I would critique about the song is that the breakdown was a little too short. It feels like I wanted to hear it for another 8 bars because it's a very strong part. And it feels like to me that they only briefly show that part for just like one brief moment, and you just want to hear it over and over again. So it felt like I was playing back that section because it was really cool. Aside from those 2 songs, I think What You've Become, Kill Me, Desperation, and Criminal are the best songs on this album. What I love about What You've Become is how powerful it is. It's got a great triplet feel throughout the whole entire song. Nothing really drags. It really builds into something meaningful, and it's just a great overall track. Kill Me has a really good gent sections that are something that I think was a little unexpected with when listening to this album. So it was really cool to kind of hear those kind of inspired parts thrown into that song. Desperation's got a great solid groove. It's got really nice layered vocals, and Criminal has a great ethereal and atmospheric elements that are really thrown in, especially with the overall presentation of the song, especially with the vocals and with the guitar melody and how the drums are pulled back a little bit. It's a really, really catchy song. If I had to list the best songs on this album, I'd say mine would be What You've Become, then Desperation, then Kill Me, then Blood from a Stone, and then Criminal. I'd say those 5 are the best songs on this album. The album concludes with a very strong cover of The Day I Tried to Live. Of course, is one of the more famous Soundgarden songs. The one thing that kind of separates this cover from the original is that Sevendust are a lot heavier with this track. I think they really kind of lay into their instruments a little bit more. And I think that if you're not a fan of Sevendust, I think you can really find appreciation with this track, because I think that they do this song a lot of justice. Even though I did like this record, I do find that there's one major flaw with this release. The problem with the overall presentation of this album, it feels like the song structures throughout the whole entire record are very similar to each other. It feels like it starts off with the intro, verse, chorus, bridge, chorus, outro, done. And it kind of becomes a little bit too predictable, but at the same time, if the riffs and the melody is musically interesting, then that kind of structure can be very forgiven. But on tracks like Alone and Love, it feels like they had a really good chorus part for both of those songs, but the way that they build into that section kind of felt a little bit too safe, and it kind of felt like they were holding back a little bit. Like I said, Love and Alone weren't really my thing, but I hope they become a little bit more experimental with future releases. Overall, this is a good album by Sevendust. I'd say that the band's performance on this record is very good. I think that the production's excellent. The cover art's awesome. I wish that they were a little bit more experimental, but hopefully that this is the next step into the band's evolution. I don't think it's as good as All I See Is War, but it's still an enjoyable album to listen to. So that's why I'm going to give Blood and Stone a 3.5 out of 5 skulls. All right, it's time for the shoutouts. Here are some awesome albums you need to check out. First up, we have Zeal and Ardor with their brand new EP, Wake of a Nation, out on Radicalus and MVKA. Next up, we have Pallbearer, Forgotten Days, out on Nuclear Blast. Leaves Eyes, The Last Viking, out on AFM Records. And finally, we have Armored Saint, Punching the Sky, out on Metal Blade Records. So what did you think of Sevendust's brand new album? Let me know in the comments section below. I'm actually just about to pack up all my stuff to go into the studio to record Vesperia's new album, so I'm really excited about that. Next time, I'm going to be talking about a progressive metal band. It's the last big release within that subgenre. Well, typical. The prog guy is going to talk about a prog band. Shocker, I know. Anyways, guys, stay safe, take care, see you soon. Cheers.